After 7 numbered entries, the Yakuza series decided it was time for a major shake-up. Not only would series protagonist Kiryu not be the game's playable character, the gameplay formula would also be completely revamped. The days of smashing your way through your enemies in classic beat-em-up fashion are now a thing of the past, with Like a Dragon deciding to evolve into a full-on turn-based JRPG. Now, this was a ballsy move. Many fans could easily be turned away by this, as not only is Kiryu no longer the main character, it's also essentially an entirely different game. This was such a big risk, and they had to absolutely nail it. And thankfully, they absolutely did. I completely adore the gameplay of this game. Turn-based combat isn't something I'm usually overly keen on, although a select few such as Persona 5 and Final Fantasy X did manage to captivate me. So I wasn't sure if I was going to click with this combat, but I ended up falling in love with it rather quickly. There are 6 party members that you'll have to choose from throughout the game, all with their distinct roles, which are further expanded upon by the game's job system. You can go to the job centre and switch jobs, which is essentially learning an entirely new move list for your characters. The customization options present mean that you really are in control of how your party will operate. I found the best way for me to play was to have Ichiban as the all-rounder, providing a bit of everything, have 2 other characters as the main source of damage, whoever they are kind of boils down to personal preference, and then using Seiko for healing and debuffs. There's so many things to pay attention to in this game. There's plenty of elemental and physical susceptibilities to take into account. You've got the usual culprits such as frost and burn damage, and you can also charm and paralyze enemies into not being able to take their turn. There's bleeding and poison for constant damage. It's just insane, and all of this can also obviously be done to you by the enemies. The gear system complements this superbly. You can craft gear or strengthen your own gear at the Romance Workshop. You can earn accessories from side quests or battles that give you extra benefits as well. And to further expand upon this, they also ensure that you're rewarded for seeing all that the game has to offer. Yakuza games have always offered incredible side content, but this game makes it even more rewarding than ever to see it all. When you complete sub-stories, for example, not only will you be treated to a well-written, light-hearted mini-adventure, there's also a chance that the individual you've helped will become a summon that you can use in battle, similarly to how you'd use summons in any other JRPG, but with a lot more ridiculousness thrown in.
Is this some sort of joke?
There's also a chance that they can be recruited to work for your business. That's right, there's also an entire minigame where you attempt to become the largest business in Ijincho. I did finish the minigame, but I'll be honest, for most of it I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. I was kind of just winging it, and it kept working, so I kept doing what I was doing. But it does seem simple enough. Although this is a completely optional activity, the game heavily incentivizes you to do it. For one, it's the most consistent and easy way to make money, for very little effort. The game also includes a sort of brick wall before the third act begins, where you need to pay 3 million yen to progress the story. I've got no idea how you could possibly have accumulated 3 million yen by this point of the game without playing the minigame. For 2, it's the only way to access one of the party members, and for 3, beating the business minigame gives you access to the best attack in the game. I mean, just look at this shit.
Let's get nutty!
There's obviously other stuff you can do as well. Karaoke thankfully returns, that's always nice. And the Dragon Kart minigame was a lot more fun than I feel it had any right to be.
See ya! This is gonna hurt!
Next, we're going to talk about the story. This game has an insane story. A lot of that hinges on the fact that Ichiban is just an incredible character. It's no small task to live up to Kiryu, but I feel Ichiban gives it a damn good go. The transition is eased by the fact that they do both share one vital characteristic. They're both loyal to a fault. How can you not root for someone who cares about his friends as much as Ichiban does? You really buy into the us against the world mentality that the story centres itself around. Not going to spoil the ending here, but it's a fantastic ending that honestly really hit me in the gut. I feel like the final few chapters of this game are brilliant in terms of narratorial direction. It also helps that the English dub is actually very strong, especially Ichiban. Ichiban's voice actor does an exceptional job, especially in the emotional scenes towards the end of the game.
Garbage like me under his foot! What satisfaction do you two get from watching me break?
You can really feel the pain in his voice. Very beautifully done. There are of course criticisms of the game, but they're mostly just quirks that you would attribute to the Yakuza series or JRPGs anyway. Like for example, in true Yakuza fashion, it's paced pretty poorly, there are a lot of exposition dumps, you can definitely spend more than half an hour watching cutscenes. In fact, once you beat the final boss, the resulting cutscenes take around 40 minutes before the game concludes. There's also a lot of characters doing weird things in cutscenes for plot reasons, where you have to just kind of go, yeah, that's Yakuza. This doesn't really bother me. As I mentioned before, I've played all the numbers entries, I've played both judgments, like I'm used to this kind of thing, it doesn't really bother me, but it may bother others. Then there's the JRPG stuff. When you get to chapter 12, there is a difficulty spike to end all difficulty spikes. In this game, you only gain experience from combat. All of the side content gives you other benefits, as mentioned earlier, but not experience. The enemy levels in this chapter jump an extortionate amount, to the point where you're naturally going to be around 12 to 13 levels below the enemies you're going to be fighting. This is where the game introduces the battle arena to you, and you're indirectly forced into spending a couple hours grinding battles to get to the required level, where the next few fights and boss fight aren't going to just completely kick your ass. You literally need to do this because the boss fight in chapter 12 is very difficult if you're not prepared for it. It's a very cool fight, but if you don't grind beforehand, you will get slaughtered. They do this on 2 different occasions, and it's not something I'm really a fan of. I much prefer a sense of natural progression in my games, but if you've played a bunch of JRPGs before, then you'll be used to this kind of thing, it shouldn't really bother you that much. Is Yakuza Like a Dragon the best game in the series? As an overall package, it's definitely up there. I personally actually prefer this turn-based combat to the beat-em-up style of the other games. I would rank Like a Dragon as the second best game in the series on a personal note, as I think it would take something very special to dethrone Yakuza 0 in my eyes. But either way, it is an extraordinary game that you should definitely play after playing the other 7 games first, in my opinion. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I hope that you did enjoy it. If you did, then please consider leaving a like, as that would greatly help me out. And if you want to see more videos like this one, then you could consider subscribing, and then you can watch them all. But that's all from me. Have a nice day, and goodbye.